Hey everybody, today I want to talk to you if you or your child has ever needed to take an antibiotic, because there's a new article circulating from CNN Health. I think it's backwards for you guys, so I'll read it to you. But antibiotic use in babies linked to allergies, asthma, and other conditions, study finds. So I want to talk about what's actually going on in this study and why it's happening, and then what you can potentially do about it. So this is a CNN Health article. I'll link to it below, and then I'll actually link to the actual peer-reviewed study that this is referencing. But what it essentially says is children younger than 2 who are given antibiotics are more likely to have a number of ongoing illnesses or conditions later in life. Things like asthma, eczema, hay fever, food allergies, celiac disease, problems with weight and obesity, and even attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. So before we get any further into that, I do want to make a point to say the researchers wanted to emphasize that the study shows association, not causation of those conditions, and we'll get into that a little bit. But when you think about a antibiotic, you want to think of it the way I talk to it with people is it's kind of like a nuclear bomb to your microbiome. And later in this article, they say an explosion of research about our microbiome has found it can play a role in everything from how we respond to chemotherapy to our brain chemistry and immune response. And that's really where I want to focus on, is our brain chemistry and our immune response. Because when we take the antibiotic and we blow up our microbiome, it's going to, if you've ever done any research into the microbiome, you've seen that there is a connection, what's called a gut-brain connection, brain-gut connection. And the way that's created is through something called our vagus nerve. And our vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. It's one of 2 cranial nerves that actually comes out of our skull, and it's called our wandering nerve because it goes not only down to your gut, but on the way down, it stops by the heart, it stops by your lungs. It's a really important part of your nervous system, arguably the most important part of your nervous system outside the brain and spinal cord. And your vagus nerve is so important in what's called your rest and digest part of your nervous system, or what we call your brake pedal. That part of your nervous system is what controls your relaxation, digestion, immune function, health, healing, growth, development. That part of your nervous system is what controls all those things. And so when you take an antibiotic and you blow up your microbiome, that's going to send a lot of signals to your brain to go into stress response mode, to go into fight or flight mode, to go into survival mode. And when your brain does that, it's actually going to suppress the function of your vagus nerve. So it's going to suppress your immune response. It's going to suppress your digestion. It's going to suppress your relaxation, health, healing, growth part of your nervous system. And that's not a good thing. So if that's suppressed over a long period of time, that's when we're going to see a lot of these issues start to show up, because most of these issues are related to immune function, digestive function, and then your brain chemistry. So that vagus nerve going to and from the brain and the gut, that's how we see associations with gut issues and ADHD issues, and other things like focus and reading comprehension issues as well. Now, the other way we want to look at it is the reason the researchers wanted to emphasize that this shows association, not causation, is because if we look at it as, say a kiddo needs antibiotics early in life. Well, maybe they need the antibiotics because there's an underlying condition that if we don't address that condition as they progress, that condition is going to then grow and manifest into one of these issues that they've shown up, one of these illnesses. And if the child needs multiple rounds of antibiotics, because here in the article it actually says here higher doses equals more conditions. So the more and more antibiotics they may need earlier on in life means the worse and worse that condition is. And if we don't take care of that condition early on, the more conditions and illnesses that are going to show up later on in life. So when we look at it that way, we're still going to be looking at how the vagus nerve works, because the vagus nerve comes out of our brainstem right here at the base of our skull, and it goes all the way down to our digestive tract. Now, the reason we could have interference at the vagus nerve all the way up here, things like birth intervention, birth trauma, or even just a trauma of slipping and falling, hitting our head, whiplash trauma, that's going to also negatively affect the way our vagus nerve is functioning. So if our vagus nerve, that communication between gut and brain, isn't functioning properly, we're going to see a lot of these issues, and then the child is given an antibiotic on top of that. So that's going to lead to an issue up here, an issue in the gut, and that's going to create kind of what we call a perfect storm. That's going to lead to a lot of these issues later on down the road for these kiddos. So if you have any questions about this or want any more information, again, I'm going to link to the articles below. Feel free to read them. But if you have any more questions about it, please use me as a resource. Shoot a message here on Facebook to me, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. And if there's anyone you know that might need to hear this, please feel free to share the video with them. And again, ask questions, use me as a resource, and I'll be happy to figure out what we can do as best as possible, because it's so important that we understand how your nervous system is working. Because when we go back, gut issues, ADHD issues, it's always important to figure out how the nervous system is working and what we can do to correct it, and therefore try to get rid of that underlying condition that can lead to these issues later on down the road. So if that sounds like something that you need to have some more questions answered, always feel free to reach out, and I'll help you as best as I can. Other than that, have a wonderful day.